today at the stile that leads down, that we get in over this stile to go down to the Puicins. Now, I looked the word up in Dineen's dictionary, and a Puicin is a kind of a camouflage or a trap where fish are trapped. We used to catch fish down here when I was young, catch sprat. We used to come over to catch sprat, and if we were lucky, we caught salmon and trout that were trapped in the Puicins down here. So let's go in and we'll have a look at those Puicins. The first Puicin is here on my left, down here, right under the arch of the old castle up there. The Puicin itself is probably 30 yards in length. The people who lived over here built a wall across this part of the little lake, and that's lower than the side of the bridge here. And what used to happen was that when the tide came in, covering the bridge and the wall of the Puicin, fish would come in, and because there was a lot of feeding around here, they would tend to stay. And as the tide ebbed and got below the level of the wall, they were trapped. And then when the tide went out, you could catch them. You could actually go down there. Now there's still a little bit of water here, which would be higher than what I'm talking about, but you could actually come down here and catch the fish. And I remember on one occasion 3 salmon being trapped in there. So I waited around and got out there in my shorts and my bare feet and eventually caught them. Now if they weren't caught, what would happen to them is they would be eaten by crabs, because once the water left the Puicin, they would be actually eaten by crabs here. Now we spent a lot of time over here as kids, because not because there were fish in it, but not because there was salmon or trout here, but because there were sprat, and we used sprat for catching mackerel in the quay in Kinvara. So we come over here to catch the sprat, but sometimes we were lucky and there was either salmon or trout trapped in here. Okay, now that's Puicin number 1. Now there's a Puicin number 2 which is further out. So we're going to go along by the shore over there, over to Swan Island to see it. Now the second Puicin is here on my right, and it's opposite Leaden O'Donovan's house. You can see the thatched house over there. That's Leaden's, and Mike Burke's development there. Now this one isn't as big a one as the other one, and wasn't as fruitful. Now this is Swan Island, and you can see the swans there. Swans sleeping. They nest on that particular island there. So we'll make our way down to the Puicin. Now this is the second Puicin here. Now it's not as big as the other one, and you can see the wall built around it and into here and over to here. So again, it operated on the same principle. When the tide came in, the fish used to come in and they'd be near the shore, because obviously there was stuff to eat. And when the tide went out, they got trapped within the confines of that. Now this one dried, as you can see there's no water at all in it now, so it dried very quickly. And if you weren't here in those days to get the sprat, which is what we were looking for, the sprat would be eaten by crabs. So that if it was a trout, now I never got a salmon here, but we used to get trout, and if a trout was trapped in it and it dried, well, the crabs would totally eat it. So we spent a lot of our childhood during the summer out here in those 2 Puicins, collecting sprat for fishing in the quay in Kinvara for mackerel, because the sprat were a great bait for the mackerel. But as I said, sometimes you'd be very lucky when you'd come out and you'd get them. Now, one of the problems we had when we captured them was that Mikey Hines, who lived up where Kenny lives, Mikey kind of had an ownership, he felt, of those Puicins. We don't know whether he had or not. So when we caught them, the fish, our big objective was to try and get away with them, bring them home. So fellas, including myself, put them inside our shirts, to conceal them. And went back along the shore and ran along until you got up on the road back near Seamount Gate, and you had trout or salmon for dinner. So this is one of the places that I often speak about in programs, as I said, and that very few people know of. So this is an opportunity to reveal some of the places that make up the hidden Kinvara. So thank you all for listening, and we'll pick another area or spot for our next program. Thank you very much.
you.